each individual. It's the new. Does that work?
I thought it was just recording names, not the vote.
So it's liquid. Also how each individual government.
And that gets put on,
By name.
yeah, that gets put on
I'm
the,
just, yeah, so like when we do a consensus, it's gotta say each member how they voted. That's how I interpret it, so.
that's not how I interpret it.
Okay.
In fact, I have that on the agenda to talk about it at the end, board
Okay.
comments. Thank you. Okay, it's about ready to go. Okay, I'll call this. I'm not ready. You guys ready?
We're just waiting on you.
Okay, now I'm ready. According to ORS 192.610 to 192.690 and ORS 192.650. And this meeting is being recorded. And we'll start with the invocation by
All right, Fred, let me say thank you for your service. Father, we are thankful for those that you raise up, both as volunteers and staff and all those that serve our community in this way. I would pray tonight that you would give blessing to this meeting by giving wisdom and discernment in decisions that are made. I also pray that, Father, you bless these people and their homes. Pray this always because of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you, Brad.
The flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one indivisible. Okay, roll call. Paul Miller. Here. Ken.
Here.
Matt.
Here.
Oh, Matt Day.
Oh,
Here. Okay, we're here. The chief here. The wrong agenda, really. Excuse me. Any changes to the agenda? None for me. Okay, one thing I'd like to do right now is move things up and let the auditor give his report. Is that okay with everybody?
Sure.
Okay, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay. For the record, my name is Peter Gauser. I was the lead auditor again this year. I've been the auditor for a number of years in a row here. So overall, the financials are pretty clean. We had an unmodified opinion, which in CPA talk is just everything looked good. No real significant issues. There were a couple little minor kinds of things. The biggest one I think is QuickBooks. It is a useful tool, but it's an easy one that can be manipulated. You can easily change things from one period to the next. You can delete things. And so you always have to be aware of that when you're doing something as a government auditor and change something for something that was already audited. You can have significant differences from year to year. And that's what we have this year. There is part of one of the fire trucks payments that got moved from one year to the next. And so there's a restatement in your financials. And sometimes those events should occur, but you just have to be thinking through that process. to see whether they should occur. You know, and so that's part of what we do as auditors, but also staff needs to do, and just kind of error occurred in the previous year. So I'm not saying one way or the other. It's very likely that it should have been moved to this fiscal year. But the whole fact that things are moving, it wasn't just that one entry. There's a few little things that got deleted. That's just a concern we have as auditors, just to be aware of that. You know, I don't know whether we want to lock down QuickBooks a little more or what, but just be aware that QuickBooks is a useful tool, but that's worked well with fund accounting, which is what we have to do as government accountants when you have two different funds. And it doesn't work well with tracking changes and making sure you kind of take into accounts when it's. So that was the first big thing. Beyond that, and I'm really talking right now about the letters I think the board received. The two issues are just things that we always kind of have a segregation of duties concern, because you really have one person that's doing the majority of the cycle. It's great that the board is reviewing things, and the chief is doing a lot of review as well. And that's really helpful. So it decreases the risk of segregation of duties. Is going to be a problem, but it doesn't decrease the fact that you have a segregation of duties concern, if that makes sense. The other part is the fact that we have to write your financials. There's a risk. It's a risk for us. It's a risk for you. The fact that we kind of have to do a little bit of self-review. So we have stopgaps in place to kind of fix that issue internally. But you just have to be aware that that is always going to be a risk when you're writing your financials, and you don't really have a staff member who knows all of the government accounting standards, the new lease standards, the new software subscription standards, all these things, and they keep coming up with new crazy ones. So just be aware of that. Those are the three main things that we found in our audit. The two minor things is there was just a little bit of tracking in terms of your credit cards, missing some receipts and things like that. And I know it's really hard at a fire station when you have people moving, going, and dropping things to go do their main job, you know, but it's just a concern that you just have to make sure that those receipts are turned in and follow your own process of really approving those and making sure everything is kind of saved. The final one, I think we have listed here, is a budget issue that is resolved in your 24-25 budget, but it just is something that we talked about last year, and that's really, it's just a carryover from the previous year. Any questions on the concerns raised before I get into
I think you've had this discussion about segregation before of duties. And
yeah. So
we're not a big company, and that's part of the downgrade.
Realize we're in that position.
Yeah. So the segregation duties and financial drafting things, we have those in probably 95% of our audits that we do. The state recognizes that's an issue, but they actually have laws in place or rules in place to say, okay, that's an acceptable kind of thing to do. So I wouldn't really be concerned as long as you keep those other controls you have going.
Oh, QuickBooks, I heard you go into detail about that, and I read it. What would you recommend to be more secure?
So it's a little bit similar to segregation of duties, where you can go to additional softwares that are more secure and are really geared for government accounting governments, but the cost is so much more. And so whether it's worth that, I'm not sure it is. The one additional nice thing is about your QuickBooks account is you can see up or they're housed somewhere else. And, you know, so there's a little bit of trade-off there in terms of risk as well. Yeah, I can come up with a few names of actual vendors, but the real concern is whether you want to spend that amount of money. And if you're switching back, I mean, the grant fund seems like it's kind of going away, or at least it's decreasing. It's, you know, so the fund accounting part of that may not be an issue. It kind of depends whether you're gonna. And, you know, we have clients that use QuickBooks exclusively, and they have 6 or 7 funds. So it's definitely workable. You just have to make sure that you can do it with a fund structure or account structure where you have the actual account numbers and list them for the different funds that way. You know, and you have to make, you're always going to have to make some adjustments with QuickBooks, because one of the things that QuickBooks does is it takes all of the activity and rolls it into one account the next year. So when you roll your profits for all these different funds, it rolls it into one account as your net position or your equity position or fund position. And then you have to split it out between all the different funds you have. So that can cause a little bit of a headache. But in answer to your question, there's not great other solutions. We actually see this also on our business side, where there's not, it's QuickBooks or a lot more money.
Well, you have to look at
Yep. Further than that.
which software has the majority of the share, so that if you do have to hire somebody new, are you limiting yourself by buying something that maybe only 5% of the people that you could potentially hire would know that accounting software?
Right.
So that's another side you have to weigh.
Yeah. So I would definitely agree with that. We have a couple that they're the only ones around that use that particular software, and they're having trouble training their people to really use it. Words and so forth are really hard to kind of figure out. So I'm more than willing to do a little research and come up with a few names of software, but from my point of view, it's more managing QuickBooks rather than switching.
Working with it.
Yes. And since the audit, Peter showed me how to close so that no transactions can be changed for the prior year. That wasn't being done before, and so it was really easy to go in, and a simple date change or a simple account change would mess up the audit, and that happened. So now it's locked. If anybody tries to go in there, you will be required to put in a password. All of you have access. You will be required to put in a password that only I know, and I can't remember it, so. No, I know it's something.
I think it's, with anything, as time goes on, you keep learning more and more about what you're working with and get better and better at it.
Learning curve.
You got it.
So overall, I would say using QuickBooks and the chief and the board reviewing all the costs and expenses for a small organization, I feel comfortable for that. What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think overall your controls are really good, you know, and so you just want to maintain those controls. But I have no real concerns. I mean, this is, you know, basically a big check got moved. And so that's where we have issues. So you just have to be aware of that. But yes, I think you're.
Questions?
You know how much you want me to go into your actual financial. There isn't a lot that has changed in here. I will point out, with all the changes in your personnel, the PERS liability is now back a little bit. Because it's always a year behind. But now you have a liability of about 460,000 or something like this. Let's use the frontline numbers. You have 3 levels of your financials. So I would use your, what we call the middle level, where you see the general fund, to really understand what's going on in your district. The government-wide levels, it helps that it has your capital assets, but also has this weird little PERS liability that's fairly nebulous in whether it's real, or, I mean, it's real in terms of they use actuarial numbers to figure it all out, but I'm not sure it has a really direct impact. I just wanted to point that out, because before this whole shift, your liability was 1.4 million, somewhere around there. It then went down to 0, and now it's up to 400,000. So it's just a number. But that's something to be aware of.
Anyone else?
Are there any pages you should be highlighting?
What was that?
Is there any pages in here you should be highlighting, letting us know
Oh,
something different, or?
Yeah, so as I just said, I would just look at your page 14 and page 16 of your financials.
Oh, okay.
It just gives you a sense of really the activity that's happened during the year. 14 is your balance sheet. It excludes your capital assets, so just be aware of that, but that gives you a sense of how much cash you have on hand. You know, your various little smaller property tax receivables and payroll liabilities and things like that. You know, but basically at this level, you have 5.4 million in fund balance to do what needs to be done for the fire district. And then page 16 is kind of your activity for the year. Or a profit for the year, based on all your property taxes coming in. These 2 pages can really help give you a big top level snapshot. Shouldn't really be different than what you're seeing every month with the financials you're getting.
Else? Anybody see? Do we need a motion to accept this audit report, or do we just accept it as presented?
I would say make a motion or the official that you have accepted it.
That's what I feel too, so. Does someone want to make that motion to accept the annual audit report for 2024?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. accept
Ben
the
made a
audit.
motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Matthew makes a second. Matthew, or Matt Day, how do you vote?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Matt? Matthew?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. The motion passes unanimously. Okay, Peter, thank you so much for your time.
Peter?
So just a quick recap of the next steps. So there's some letters that will need to be signed, the various members here. And then 30 days from when we release the report, there's a corrective action plan, which covers the three things we've already talked about that would need to be approved by this board and then submitted to the state. So just be aware of that. Okay? So, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions as you read things.
So in recap, we're in pretty good shape for the shape we're in.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We'll go back to item B1, the consent agenda. And it's to accept the November 19th, 2024 meeting minutes. So do we have a motion to accept them?
Are we bundling these up?
We're gonna pay the bills also?
Well, there's been a change, and I was gonna
Okay.
discuss this
Yeah.
under board comments.
Okay,
But
well,
we used to accept the minutes the way they were presented. And then we come up with this consent agenda, which put everything together,
Mhm.
so then we voted to accept that. But last month, we discussed to separate those two. And that's what they did on the agenda. So I wanted to discuss with everybody, because it was years ago that I was in an SDAO conference that said you could just accept them, you didn't have to vote on them, accept them as written. And Ken brought that in last week, or last month. So this is why we separated it from the consent agenda. So how do you people want to do it? Do you want to stay with the consent agenda, or do you want to do it this way?
I believe we should separate them back out again.
Separate them back out?
They're two different items.
Yep.
If we're gonna accept the minutes from the previous months, let's do that as a group. And then we can discuss approving the minutes after that. I believe what I was talking about last month was making sure that we, as a board, are looking at the bills to make sure there's no conflicts of interest. And I think that kind of needs to be its own animal with paying the bills and not have this other item mixed in with it.
Can't believe it, I agree with you.
And I was thinking you could do all of that, and the person that has the conflict of interest can do that, but I wanted to bring that up and see which way you want to go. Do you want to keep it separate, keep it together, however?
Separate.
I'd like to separate. Okay, they're two different
If it makes a
issues.
difference, then when we went to that consent agenda, it was with the intent of all the basic items that didn't need a lot of attention would be balled into there. We really don't have that.
No, we
So I
don't.
mean, they can be separated out and it's not an issue.
I know bigger organizations like the city and the county, they have the consent agenda, but
yeah.
it's okay. And then Matthew brought an issue up here, ORS 199-050-0055, which says minutes have always had to record the results of all votes. Moving forward, be sure that your district's minutes reflect not only how the board voted, but also how each individual governing body member voted. And I've read this before, and I looked in the rules of order that we use. And by saying all in favor, aye, opposed, no, the recording secretary records them, okay. Matthew, Matt, Ken, and Paul agreed, and I voted no, so she would put those four down there. So what I'm saying, do you want to go with all in favor, or do you want individual votes?
I think we should individual vote.
Individual votes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I'm the
And that way
other way,
everybody-
but I wanted to go with the majority.
Everybody knows where everybody stands.
That was recommended, at OFDDA conference by the attorneys
I
also.
think so.
And I just got this in an email saying, be aware of this.
Okay, that clears that up. So would somebody like to make a motion to accept the minutes for the November 19th, 2024 meeting?
I make a motion that we accept the November 19th, 2024 meetings, or meeting minutes as presented.
Paul has made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Matt Day seconded. All in favor? Start with, excuse me, I'm still.
Wait a minute, we're going back.
Wait a minute.
just, excuse me, I've said, this is the only board where I ever sat on that we did it this way.
Okay,
So let's start with Kent.
yes.
Okay, Paul,
Yes.
Matt Day,
Yes.
Matthew Silver,
Yes,
and I'm a yes, so it's all approved. And now, does somebody have a motion?
Okay, but before you start the approval of bills, I do want to say one thing, kind of recap what I said last month.
Yes,
Okay, it's my opinion that even if you declare a possible conflict or you have an actual conflict, as long as you declare it, I still believe you can vote on approving the bills.
I think you can,
oh, yes.
I just
yeah.
wanted-
unless you feel uncomfortable. about it.
Unless you feel uncomfortable,
And then you're okay to abstain.
right, but if you declare it, you should be able to vote on approving the bills.
Yeah.
So we only have two board members right now that have a conflict, Matt Day and John, because you have
The
a
check,
reimbursement,
Right,
yeah.
I think there is something in there about when it's directly affects you, but I think there's a dollar value attached and things like that, but I don't think it's anything
no,
we need to worry about.
what I don't want is, oh, I've got a check coming to me, now I can't vote on the bills at all.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't seem right. You
You know,
know,
it used to be just when that individual bill come up,
Mhm.
we didn't vote on
But
that.
we're not doing
Yeah.
individual bill approval, we're doing them as a whole.
I agree.
Okay, all right.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the bills to be presented as paid, to be paid as presented? I gotta tell you, I'm a little stressed today. I was out in the Chaplain call for that fire. Probably 20 phone calls, coordinating stuff, so I'm still up high wired from that, so
totally.
So
I
if there-
apologize for
if
that.
there's any board members that have a possible conflict of interest, they need to declare it publicly. So we can get it on record and then we can vote on the bills.
And when the motion's made, then that's when.
When you do the declaration.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we pay the bills as presented.
I'll second it.
The motion made by Matthews, second by Paul. I would like to declare that I have a conflict of interest in these bills.
I vote yes, but declare I also have a conflict of interest as I'm employed by Day Wireless and Reliance Connects, and there's two bills there.
Okay. So we'll start with the vote. Matt?
Yes.
Yes. Matthew?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And Ken?
Yes,
And I'm a yes.
okay. I think that's a perfect way to do this.
Yep, I think we got it cleared up there. Thank you for your
Do we,
help. on
do
that.
we have to state the amount or anything?
I think so.
Yeah.
Just no, just, you say I have a potential conflict of interest.
Actually, I don't think Director Day has to declare one. I'm gonna follow up, but I don't think you have to just because you're an employee of the business. I think there's something there that said you don't need to, but.
If you're an owner.
We should probably check into it.
I'm gonna find out.
Yeah, we need to dig in and find out if you're an owner, is that changes or different than being an employee or, you know.
Former Director John Bresco always declared when his fuel bill would come up when we were buying fuel.
It's a safe thing to do.
I
Yeah,
don't have a problem declaring.
Right. But if we don't need to do it every meeting, that's.
so the motion has been approved. And let's go to, staff committee report. Chief, we're ready to do.
Yep. We had 97 calls last month, although it may have been a little higher because we had a number of them that were still in draft, so call it around 100. The Volunteer Association received a $50,000 grant from the Robert and Mary Jane Smith Foundation for training. Zach Ellis is Volunteer of the Month, and Christian is now a licensed paramedic for us. Congratulations.
Can I interrupt just for a second, Chief?
Yeah.
Christian had something he wanted to say at the last board meeting, but he, didn't do it, so you wanted to say what you told me?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to thank the board, for supporting, that through the contract. Being a paramedic was my goal of mine, but it's never been a reality, so you guys helped make that a reality, so I just want to thank you for supporting that.
You bet, man. Good job.
You bet.
Thanks for doing
Okay, Chief, sorry for that.
That's fine. And then the strategic plan, we got a agreement from Fitch and Associates. We got that off that's signed, and I believe in your packet is the first check.
I'd like to add something to that. I did have a conversation with Chief Brian. Let me see. Chief Brian Carr from Charlotte County, Florida. I called a few of these references and I did get a call back. And he had lots of good things to say about Finch and Associates, and how they did for them. So,
That's good to hear. Our next step with them is a virtual kickoff meeting in January, which, he's supposed to get back to me on a date for that, but that'll be coming fast.
yeah.
And that was it for me. You guys all know I had time off this last month, so.
Yeah, we hardly recognized you when you got
I
married.
know, right? That's what everybody keeps saying, like, we're here.
You were here, the new guy back.
Turn over to Chief Smith for operations.
All right, so we're getting through some of our maintenance issues. I've got as stated in the operations minutes, bullet points. We did get engine 331 back. If you remember, I sent that in for Liver PM and a full NFPA inspection, which saw a lot of problems with it. So we worked through those problems, got a new engine control module, and it seems to be working fine. We got engine 332 back after a primer valve and an oil change. I was supposed to get an update Monday from Cascade Fire on a brush unit that's being revamped for some of those warranty issues. They still haven't got back to me, but I'm expecting that soon. What else? We're trying to get IQ working and implemented. Tony D's kind of taking the lead on that program. He's working with IQ for training. What else? We're gonna move forward with 5 new cradle points. These are cradle points that were purchased many, many years ago, and they're outdated and not supported anymore. And so that's gonna be about a $9,000 purchase, plus new antennas and stuff like that. So be expecting a large purchase here soon. Other than that, I'm really happy to say that 2 of our volunteers, Dominic Siri, got a job offer and accepted with Hillsborough Fire, and Caden Reed had with Walton Valley. Yeah, so congratulations to them. Also in November, we went to Rachel Everest and Cameron Barone, their graduation from Hillsborough Fire. They seem to like us. They seem to like our volunteer
people. Got good training.
Well, that was a relatively slow month. And a report.
Move on to fire marshal.
More plan reviews. Lots of good stuff. A lot of research and consults on stuff in the industrial park. Got some inspections done. You'll start seeing some of the reports coming in from compliance engine. I added that to an inspection list, so you'll see those come through. Those are reports I can deal with from my desk that the vendors upload. Basically, those are going to be kitchen hood systems, cleanings, fire extinguishers, any of the fire and life safety, so fire alarms, sprinkler systems, that kind of stuff. And then anything that had to do with fires down there. We had an incident over at Dollar General. I kind of left a message for the general manager to follow up on. Finished up RV fire from Springwater Road. About it? Questions?
What was that? You talked about fire extinguishers and hoods and everything, that the vendors.
That's compliance engine.
Okay, so what is compliance in it exactly?
So NFPA standards and fire code require fire and life safety systems to be tested annually, semi-annually, depending on what that system is.
Okay.
And so compliance engine is a third-party reporting system. So the vendors upload those reports and I can view them from for my desk
So
and see
why-
if they're compliant or not compliant.
This is new to me because we've never done that before. And so I'm wondering why we went that direction. For me, it's been a big hassle with all my renters down there. Figuring out what's theirs, what's mine, you know, they're in charge of the fire extinguishers, they own the fire extinguishers. I own the EMS lighting and that kind of stuff. And then they're out of Illinois, aren't they?
Compliance engine?
Yeah,
Yeah, they're just basically a collector.
so we used to do that ourselves. I don't understand why we're using a third party now to do that for us.
Why?
Yeah.
Because of
Time,
time. There's not enough of me.
Okay,
and we've been using it since 22.
so
A year.
is there a way to break it down in responsibilities? So that, because like if they don't own the building, if they own the building, then all the responsibility falls on them. But if they don't own the building, then it falls on two different parties, and there's a big miscommunication between two different parties when somebody goes in to inspect.
I don't care who submits the report. I don't care if it's the owner or the occupant.
Somebody from this organization goes into one of my buildings to do a inspection. They have no clue which is which. Nobody tells them that, hey, these are your fire extinguishers, so you have to file that report with them. Or like, I have the EMS lighting, I have to file the report with them.
That's up to whoever's occupying it or the building owner. That's a private
Okay,
deal. You guys can sort that out yourself.
okay,
So like if a tenant situation, like we're getting stuff for the doors
yes.
on through compliance engine as the building owner.
Mhm.
But then the tenant might be getting something for the fire extinguishers. And they're like,
No.
I don't know what to do with this. Is that the question?
Well, no, what the question is,
The same kind of questions come up. That's like, who's
Yeah,
responsible for it?
they come in with an inspection and there's parts that is the tenant's responsibility, and then there's parts that's the building owner's responsibility. And there's no definition between the two. I got tenants that are trying to do the 90-minute test for the EMS lighting, and it's really not their responsibility because they don't own that.
It could be in their contract, could be in their lease agreement.
Okay, yeah, I
Some
guess,
landlords put that in their lease agreement, that they make that their tenant's responsibility.
okay. All right, I've been getting calls about it and I've run up against it myself too. Have you had any issues with any of the R Connect buildings or?
Yeah, and I think we just ended up hiring DTS to go through and run through everything, fire extinguishers, exit signs, you know,
Okay.
warnings, and try to put it back on us, because if they get it, they're coming to us and like, oh, what's this fire extinguisher inspection? And they're a small little shop,
Yeah.
and we're better equipped to just deal with it, so
Just deal with it, okay.
I'd rather just come all to us as the building owner.
I don't want the liability of the fire extinguisher side. They're required to have their own fire extinguishers, do their own testing, everything else, so I let that liability be on them.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, we can do that, just change the lease.
You wanna come meet with me and help you out, work through that.
Okay. I get a lot of calls about it.
Sure.
You know,
I think
I'm not the only one that's got
There's
the
an easy way to
disconnect.
get around it, but,
Yeah.
yeah, hey, we'll catch up.
Yeah, all right. Thank you.
Chief Alto has a presentation for you on, training facility plan that he's worked on. One of the, board goals was to, provide a plan for upgrading and or updating the district training facility. So, tasked with that, and he's here to talk about training, recruitment, retention, and that project.
PowerPoint?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Check your PowerPoint.
maybe it's PowerPoint.
Okay, so as you know, I'm asked to go over the training facility options that we have, and after going through the facility, asking questions with our members, and trying to understand the different paths so you can tell me what direction you want to go, this is the information I was able to put together. When it's done, if there's any additional information, just for the sake of time, I've got a pamphlet from one of the companies that will explain process, acquisition, options, and so forth. But I want to give you something so you know what we were looking at. Option one, we do nothing. And the grounds remain the same, right? So that is an option, is that we keep everything the same and we don't do anything with it. Option two is we fix the asphalt, but keep the container. So in other words, the asphalt and the grounds all the way around it, it's collapsed, there's a lot of holes, there's trip hazards, you've seen the weeds coming through it, so we have an issue there. We could replace asphalt and then we'd have a little safer area to work on. However, we still run into the problem, the training tower is aged, we're past live burn compliancy, and then the maintenance on it is not gonna be a real good use of money. We're talking replacing floors, replacing beams, and with the shell and the structure of that, it's just money wasted essentially, but it is an option. Option three is we fix everything and we purchase a new tower. So I'll show you what that looks like. If we just cleaned the asphalt and did that 50,000, if we do everything, new grounds and new tower, the cost will be approximately 775,000, depending on accessories, depending on what you want to do and how you want that to look. Location also matters too. I know with the conversations that the district is having as far as new facilities, there might be a new location that can be proposed. I would have to put that back on you and just let you know, if we currently use the 100 by 100 spot out front, that's how this is being calculated. So the model that I was looking at is a company through Fire Facility Steel Fire Training Towers. It's called the Lieutenant model. This is what it looks like. So it's 4 stories. It has a burn room on it, has outside stairwell, and it has full movable partitions inside and a full insulated burn room. The value of a burn room now is actually the difference between compliancy and non-compliancy in new burn structures. The burn rooms also make sure that you get longer duration out of the tower, and they monitor the thermal imaging. So you understand exactly the heat temperature so you can control those things. So that's the insulated burn room. Access has got full internal and external stair systems. And with 4 stories tall, we actually can practice on a tower that might be similar to the future development that we have here in town. We have 3 level apartments, potentially 4. This would actually give us the ability to do a full stretch and reach on it. And if someday we end up, with an aerial, we'll have the ability to practice on it, doing aerial operations with a parapet and so forth. Additionally, it has repelling anchors, so our tech rescue continue to work on their skills. Full exhaust and monitoring system. So you can see in the top picture of the tower there, the exhaust system will be able to clear the smoke out of the tower quickly, so we can get through evolutions. And then with the thermal monitoring, we'll know exactly when we can relight. It does meet full 1403 compliance when it is installed by Fire Facilities. That's the company. So that's the catch. They're the ones that warranty it and guarantee it. It also has a standpipe system with sprinklers and smoke generator, true force door entry system. So you know how we have our forcible door entry prop? They build that onto the tower as well. So we'd actually be doing full simulations, just like you're making entry into a commercial or residential structure. And then pre-hung doors and ladder hook bars. So everything that we do that we would design for a Firefighter 1 Academy, a Firefighter 2 Academy, all of those skills can actually be accomplished through the use of the tower. So the overall dimensions, I just want to include them in here. Now, again, just for the sake of time, I have everything right here. So if you'd like to see it at a later time or you want copies, I can give it to you. I wanted to include it on here so you know that we looked through them. We've understood how the wind load with codes are, and then also aesthetics. The aesthetics of these towers now come with an outside false masonry wall, essentially, where it can actually match the look of organization. So it looks nicer, right, than just a bunch of Conex boxes that will fade. These are the layouts of it. And again, I'll share these with you all later if you want to see them on paper. And lastly, I wanted to give you just an overall plan if we end up moving forward with it. So the tower cost alone is just under $367,000. Shipping to get it here is just under $21,000. To put the tower together, it's $259,000. If we chose to do new asphalt, it's $40,000. If we choose to do foundation concrete, it's $100,000.
These are loose estimates. There's some things that we can do our own, like the concrete and the site prep. Other things would be done by the people that would be building the tower. Fencing, 50,000 with 10 extended posts for lights, with LED lights, 12 of them for 4,000, and estimated electrician work for 5,000. So for the tower, you're looking at 745,000 to 805,000, 15-year warranty on a 30-year tower. So these are some of the options. If you wanted to build your own tower and do Connex boxes and things that we've done in the past, it won't be NFPA 1403 compliant anymore. And so we open up liabilities, and we also open up to running our tower out like we did this one. So this is the proposal I wanted you to look at, so you have an idea of the cost.
So how long would this one be NFPA 1403?
30 years.
30 years.
Well, unless they change 1403.
Well, I was just gonna say, you can't, yeah, change it a year after we would put it in.
We are burning in ours currently.
Yeah.
Go around compliance.
Yes.
So there's some liability for that.
Yes.
Has there been any discussion with any like neighboring districts? I know they've came and trained on ours to like do a cost share where they can.
I was wondering.
Yeah.
Use it.
At this time, no, simply because I wanted to get you the numbers. I found a place to take our old one. But as far as a cost share, no, that's not a proposal I've gone through yet. Yeah, and a couple of reasons why I appreciate the question. A couple of reasons why was because we're a little fluid as far as would we put something there, would be another location. There would be things that I wouldn't have a number yet. But I'd be happy to reach out and find out if anybody's interested in doing that.
Are they still, I mean, are you guys still using it with other districts or training center?
Yeah, it's pretty limited, but the option is there. Hoodland, they come participate in our academy a little bit. We don't see a whole lot out of Colton. They tend to align more with the south end of the county. And then, after that, you got Plaquemines. They have their own tower and training facilities. The cost share isn't typically something that you get a whole lot of desire to participate in, but I mean, you can go as far as to say, yeah, you can train here, but it's gonna cost you, but then that tends to shy people away.
Yeah. So the intent when we got that was on a grant and that it was designed to be shared with neighboring districts. Now, I don't know if that's all gone now with the out of compliance, if that legality is still in place to.
With it not in compliance, it's probably not, but it's also on a 10-year, it was a 10-year deal, so it's come and gone.
Yeah,
So you said this one could be brought into compliance for how much?
This one cannot be brought
Cannot
in.
be, okay. I thought in that option too.
I think it's something to, I think it's good information for us as we, look at facilities and things like that. Kind of like we talked about phasing in and things of that nature.
Yeah.
What kind of grants pay for stuff like this?
Zero.
Really?
I don't know, that's nothing. Unless you're gonna do a mobile unit, there's some grants for that, but.
Wow.
So it's something we'd have to plan out 3 to 5 years or something.
$27,000 a year investment.
Yeah.
That 800,000 divided by 30 years, about $27,000.
We just pay them $27,000 a year for 30 years.
They have Yeah, the company went through, to get all the information, I went through several of them, and Fire Facilities has done 12 or 13 other towers in Oregon. And they do buying programs for government, so government to government buying, so the acquisition process is easier and quicker. But they do have, as you can imagine, they have about every payment plan, everything you can imagine, putting it together. And they will work locally with site prep and site plan for all that
That was gonna be
stuff.
a question that I had,
Yeah, that's what they do. The closest tower that you might know, Hillsborough, has a new massive training facility with a new tower. That was done by the same organization.
Is it typical for a district of our size to have their own training tower?
I personally don't believe so, but I see the value in that tower for the survival of our district.
I can also say that the benefit is through ISO as well. When you have training facilities on it, it's losing that tower, you lose a lot of points.
The benefit is the training your firefighters.
Yeah,
sure.
You just can't.
You have to take them somewhere else to do live.
I mean, otherwise our option is to go to Clackamas, and it's getting too far away. You're only sending limited people, and the ability to have it right here like we do is amazing. But yeah, normally you don't see smaller departments like this unless they get to where there was way out from everything else. So, I mean, we're fortunate to have what we have, but we're gonna have to do something with it.
So the burning that would go on in this, would that be like propane burning or is it actual loaded with fuels or
Loaded with fuel.
loaded with fuels? Okay. Pallets and that kind of stuff like we always do. Yeah.
So we have to buy one of these towers from like some certified group. We couldn't just go construct it.
That's correct. Yeah, cause we wanna burn
That
it.
stamp.
Yeah. So the 259,000 to erect it, is that materials, site materials that they would provide also? And put in, or is that for their labor just to come out and put it up?
Labor.
Really?
That number seems kind of high.
Pretty high to me.
You look at dollars per square foot, 4 levels.
So I got a question, we're gonna build a new station and that, is there any way we could tie that together? Or what is gonna be what would I say? A blocking of building a station and not building that for 5 years or something like that. Just some questions,
Did we fill them in on what we discussed?
A little premature, but, if you wanna.
So Chief asked Matt Day and I to come down and we were looking over the whole new station thing. So when I jumped into this new station thing, I really did not see the value in our old station. I did not want to put another dollar into a station that was that old. After looking at just the architectural costs and everything else, I started seeing the value in what that station is. So we walked over there and one of the issues that Chief's having is sleeping enough bodies. And so then I had a brainstorm that we could add 2 bays on that side, not attach them to this building physically for structure, just self-standing, its own load, and then a 16-foot bay on the other side. Those 2 bays that are here at the end, that could be repurposed into dorms. That solves his sleeping stuff, that solves our apparatus parking stuff and everything. We would baby step that potentially, and then look at, in the future, baby stepping offices on the backside over here. So it gets back to what you were, where I don't believe it, but you were right, that, yeah, you know, you were saying that you'd like to add on to this, and I've kind of come around to that. And I haven't had the time to measure things up and get an estimate and whatnot of what, roughly what we'd be getting
And we
into.
made an investment here. I mean, we went with seismic and we
Yes,
went with new
yes.
HVAC and,
Yeah,
I mean, so.
yeah,
mean, there's-
I agree 100%.
There's a lot of,
$1 million in that.
a lot of validity to it, you know, we were all, I think we were all against that originally, but
Yep.
the more we've thought about it, looked at it, the more of a reality I think that is, and, so we talked about the addition and some, significant remodel and things to do to it, and then basically making it a phased project, you know, phase 1 of the addition, and then, on down the line through office building, and, this would become like phase 4 or 5 or whatever it ends up being.
If we were just measuring it out, if we were to do that double bay in the 16 feet on that east side there, that puts the end of the station almost at the fence on the training station. So if we're looking at training station stuff and we're gonna do that first, we better figure out whether we're gonna do that or not, because those 2 entrances there to be gone into the training station.
Shutting down that road. You're shutting
Yeah,
down the
that
street to
road
do
would
any-
get shut down.
Do anything, you're shutting down the street.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Unless the bay doors are open, they can still pass through.
And they won't stop either.
Yeah.
They don't stop there.
So that seems to make a lot of sense. I wanna get with PBS where I buy my buildings from, cause that's what it would be. And then I found a siding that closely would match the concrete. And so it could be the same color, it would be smooth, so it could blend in. We don't want to add something that's gonna stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, we didn't wanna do an addition that looks like an addition.
Yeah, but we can't structurally attach to that station with the seismic upgrade. Everything was engineered for that seismic upgrade and everything else, so we need to leave that alone.
Standalone.
Exactly, and I mean, we can put against it, but we can't do no structural stuff.
Well, I like turning the shop area and the workout into dorms.
Yeah,
Why
and then
not?
like the workout area and that 16 feet over that way could be over there.
Yeah.
You know, so it just kind of till we physically walked through and everything, it just kind of came to mind. But like I said, if we're gonna look at a new training facility, we need to see where we're gonna potentially move that a little bit to accommodate that.
How much money now have we set aside in the building fund? I know it's kind of all mixed together, but what is the approximate? I'm not gonna keep you.
Talk about capital savings,
Yeah,
be in your,
The only thing that I know of is we approved that 400,000.
oh, well, yeah, as
Yeah.
far as what we've, for right now, yeah, we've got 1 million in there per station right now.
okay,
Is that what you're asking?
That's what
And
I'm
actually, that might be even contract for services or capital, but either way, I mean, we've allocated.
close to 1 million.
Right.
Okay,
So something to think about.
yeah, totally.
We've always, no, I'm just saying something else to think about is we haven't had very good success going to the public over the last 25 years.
Right.
Trying to get a station. We are a growing city still. Now is a good time to do these baby step projects where we've got good income coming in.
There is another side of this too that I left out. Chief was saying with our ISO, you know, we tasked him to try and get our ISO rating better. Us building a new station here isn't gonna give us a better ISO.
Right.
A substation somewhere else would. So if we invest a ton of cash here on a new station, we're not gonna be able to put a substation anywhere else.
Right.
So baby step this through, maybe look at doing a substation somewhere. I would like to come up with a substation design, whether it be just 2 bays and one sleeping quarter, a restroom, a shower, that whatnot. But have it be to where, okay, all of our substations from this point forward are gonna be this design. So that it's already figured out, it's already planned, it's boom, the LDS church, if they come in to build a new church in a community, they look at how many people are, in that church, and they already have a design for the size of their congregation, and that's what they get.
Right.
And so kind of the same thing with this, you know, that to try and control costs.
Cookie
Well,
cutter.
I think, yes, Decatur, the city is moving north. I mean, the city limits, look at it.
But it's gonna stop at Deuce and it's gonna stop at Highfield, because that's the UGB. It's not gonna go any further north than that. There's no, they gotta have, what is it, 95% build out of all city property before the UGB can be expanded. And you look at a sweet spot, you know, from Copeland to Deuce, Curran to Eagle Creek, that right there, there's tons of people in there have 5 and 10 acres up on the hill there. That's all gotta get maximum densified before the UGB can be expanded.
And the UGB is a deuce.
At Deuce, yeah.
That's the line.
Yeah, that's the line, but it's also Hypel down on the west side of 222.
I asked the city manager about that being expanded, you know, extended.
Yep.
She's like, no, we have so much inventory,
Yep,
like when
yep.
they built to it, but you
Yeah,
know, exactly.
gotta
what he
fill
said,
out.
There's so
Yeah.
much more
We got a long way to go.
within.
it's the same thing that I seen in Happy Valley where I came from.
And I think Lawrence Road's the east boundary. For the UGB.
I think you're absolutely right there, yeah,
Is it not
Yep.
current?
yep,
No, going east.
going east, but,
Lawrence Road, north.
oh,
No,
you
but
think
you
that's the
got-
UGB line,
It
is
is.
Lawrence?
It is,
It is,
my
okay.
property, they have a map that has like
Oh.
15, 18 homes on
So
my
it
property.
doesn't go up as high then as I thought it did on the,
It doesn't go to Lawrence.
yeah,
No,
no,
because
Lawrence.
I own property on Lawrence Road.
No, on the east side? Is the east side
On
of
the east
Lawrence?
side, and I knew when I bought that
Right.
property that the boundary was on the west side of
Okay, so
Lawrence.
the boundary is on the
So
west
it's
side.
right up there, yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah.
So a substation really doesn't make any sense right now because they're gonna build everywhere where we're close already.
for the call,
No,
You know,
we need substations for the sake of the ISO to gain a better rating.
Right.
The only way to do that is through the delivery, or the term they use for it, but you can't improve it enough without having that. And it's just something we're gonna need down the road. And I think that's the Paul's point that don't blow all your money here because we're gonna have to stand the there.
I think the main goal is to improve our station facilities here and,
I agree.
maybe in long term, why be planning 10 years out or something for,
I think you'll need it sooner than 10 years, but it's,
where,
Yeah,
I'm wondering where you're gonna get the money though.
well, yeah,
we have a life insurance policy on you, John.
we'll,
You're gonna have to talk to Shirley on that.
but yeah, I mean, there's more to come on that. This has all just been conversation up until this point. We kind of wait until we get to the first of the year, some other things to get off our plate, but
Yeah,
we opened that can, so.
but it's nice just to have these conversations, and this thought process and everything.
Is that all on the training facility and building?
That's on the training facility. I've got a little bit more for the rest of the report.
No, okay.
And I can start that.
You're all right. We had scheduled a ICS 300 and 400 class. We've completed the 300 and 400, I think, is almost done. 400 is now done for those who hosted that. We, on a personal note, I had the second executive fire officer class and have completed the 6 pre-course assignments for that. We had the acquired structure on Eagle Creek. We had 2 burn to learns. We had several day drills and basement fire volunteer drill. We invited Colton and Hoodland. Hoodland was able to attend. We had just an exceptional turnout. The burns went very, very, very well, and it was some great training. We have 8 people currently registered for our upcoming volunteer fire academy, and we have 4 more getting interviewed hopefully this next week. We are working with Nick Vigo for department photos, and they also create a department composite, so we have our photos up of all of our folks. We do feedback on our new members and our interns on, they're called daily observation reports. These daily observation reports allow us to give feedback, receive feedback, understand how we're doing with our people, and we've now hit over 100 of those. And so that's just good feedback, and it shows that we're getting and receiving to make sure they're developing. Christian Corper and Tyler Troutman have both registered with Eastern Oregon University, working towards their bachelor's degrees. We completed the Pumper Operator Academy. Mike Platts and Adel Platts both passed their EMT class in Arizona. Caleb King has completed his NREMT, and it'll come out on March 8th, but I submitted an article to Firehouse Magazine, Survivorship Bias in Fire Service. So that'll be coming up in it, but it has to get a fire district on it, so I want to make sure you knew that that's what that was. That's in my report.
Cool, it'd be cool to see that when it comes out.
Thank you, Chief. Okay. Next up is the financial report. Michael, could you help us with that?
Absolutely. In the financial report, everything is as presented. I'd like to draw your attention to our property tax revenue. We received our first large deposit for property tax revenue, and it was $3.8 million. That was quite a large deposit. Our conflagration reimbursements are slowly and steadily coming in. Our AFG reimbursement came in already from FEMA. And our audit was presented this evening. I think that's all I have for you.
Any questions on the financial report? Thank you, Nikki. Now we'll go to public comments. Is there any public comments? Anything on the screen? And nobody from the audience? On the board comments, and Director Oliver, if you could tell us how the conference went?
Yeah, it was a really good conference. Chief and I went. Learned a fair amount. I mean, I don't know, is that Bill 4810, did that require that board members at some point are getting training during the year?
Yeah, they're the deadline for it.
Yeah.
It is, but yeah.
Have they got that training figured out yet? Last time you spoke on that, they had.
Angel's done a little checking on that. I don't know if they weren't quite ready for it.
Right. But I think it was gonna require the board members do attend some sort of,
Yeah, you're gonna have to.
you know,
There
throughout
was
the year.
still an option of having SDAO come in and do that in person.
With SDAO or which?
Yeah, I had
They,
I had a note about that.
could come, and then they sent me an email saying they're actually not approved to do it yet.
Oh, really?
Everything seems to be on hold. for
Yeah.
people.
So the state of Oregon has some kind of training where they will actually come out to do the training. So I was looking into that.
Anyway, a couple of things that I learned is, do we have a policy for who can talk to the attorney? And that's, I know it's something we don't have an issue with
It
here.
was my
but
understanding was only the board president and the chief.
Probably, yeah. But
Well, we
is there-
don't,
Is there a
that's
written
what it
policy?
should be, but there's no policy.
So we need
policy,
to adopt the
yeah.
policy
Right.
for that.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then do we have a policy for if we have a grievance from a public member coming and filing a grievance against a fire district? Is there a policy?
Actually, there's not a board one, but I'm almost done with one for an
Okay.
internal policy. So when somebody calls and talks to Angel, how do you move forward with that?
Okay,
So
yeah.
if you wanted one at the board level, I don't know if it's necessary, but
It's something that was talked about
Right.
at the DDA. One thing I think is a good one is onboarding a new board member. And like a kit that we would put together, that when a new board member comes on board, that they get this kit and they sit down with the board president or another board member that's been around a while and break them in, show them all the important things. You know, some of the things on that list would be the last 12 months of meeting minutes, you know, the current budget, you know, define the board members' roles, you know, some sort of policy manual. So
Make sure they get
Tour of
training.
the fire station in there.
you bet. Well, I mean, yeah, stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, it used to be years ago, that's kind of what it was, the
Mhm.
minutes and a tour of the station, yeah.
So I think it's something we probably got away from over the years, and it's probably something that I need to get back to make sure when a board member comes on board that he's educated over a period of time to where we're all on the same page and know what the rules are and know how to be a board member. So that's something that, you know, I've got, what, 2.5 more years on the board. I think you guys are coming up, not you.
No, you and I are saying, weren't we? Yeah, we are.
Yeah, but we're not coming up yet.
2.5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, Matt
Yeah.
and Matthew are coming up next,
Yeah.
you know, so there may be a board member change, you know, so that would be next July. So I'd like to work on this.
Not only
I
that,
did that last time, and like, oh, he gave me a bunch of stuff.
John did? Yeah, so maybe I'll get
Books
with
and
John and
different
see
things
what.
that we needed for, I mean, he kind of held my hand and
I
read
got a
this and read
packet
this.
of the old days.
Yeah, let's open that up and
See
take a
if I
look
can
at it.
find that,
Mhm. Yeah,
I'll work on that, yeah.
yeah, let's work on that and get something up to snuff before next July.
And I think OFD, I think I got that from Oregon Fire District Records or
Yeah,
something.
well, SDAO has something
SDAO,
that's a
that
new
might
board
be it.
member
Yeah,
searching
they had a
onboarding.
booklet, and that's what I used.
I was gonna reach out to them and see. I'm thinking it'd be a good,
And then we could tweak it to fit us if there's something that needs change, I wouldn't think so. I think that's what I had, that SDAO.
yeah, it could be. So
Yeah,
I'll reach out to them and see if they've got something that's current
Okay,
and see if that'd probably be most of it would be. what they
mine
would
goes
provide.
1957.
Probably, no, it might have been 58 then, yeah.
Might have been,
So that's about, I think that's about all I had. Chief, you got any comments on that?
let's say there was one or two other
Yeah.
board policy type things we should have, but I think between us four.
Yeah, I mean, emailed you a list. I don't,
Right.
you probably get back to that and see.
Yeah, for the most part, we're doing pretty well, but there's a couple things that we can definitely add to it.
There was a really good, presentation by, who was the guy from Florida? With the disaster preparedness one?
Les
Yeah.
Holman.
Les Holman, that was fantastic information. And something that I think the chief's gonna be working on, getting us a little more disaster prepared. Our fire department. But yeah, good, very good conference.
other board comments? I would add one, in February 2025, we have the SDA conference, so I would like to go to that if anybody else is going, why,
where's it at?
it's in Bend at the River House.
You disappointed few people over there by not going, John.
I told him I didn't go. I kinda had it up to here.
Yeah, so, yeah.
That's just between you and I.
Everybody, there's several people asked, where's John? How come John's not here?
We've been going to them since
Yeah,
58 or.
so, Woodland had three board members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One time one fire department, forgetting this was years back, they brought all 5 of their board members. It was kind of a record, never happened
Yeah,
before.
probably not, yeah. And they have a fundraiser every year. That's part of the auction that you can buy things and it would be able to pay for members of a smaller fire department who don't really have the funds to be sending people. So pretty cool that they do that.
Yeah. Well, I got one question. Is that how do we apply for that? Do we do it like we do for a training thing, or how does the board apply to go to those conferences?
Last time Angel took
We
care of
just
it.
let, yeah, we just let them,
Registration.
Okay.
yeah, Angel takes care
Yeah,
of
I can register.
Yeah.
I mean, when it opens, because it's
Yeah.
in May, so I think it doesn't open till
No,
like
it's in
March.
February,
It's
so
open.
that's coming up, yeah.
It's open right now.
So
I just thought I'd put that out there.
you're gonna go for sure.
Gonna go.
For hotel accommodations, up to you.
Yeah, and, right now, in fact, I was gonna call, the conference hotel is booked out. But they say sometimes in January, people start canceling, so you can call in and get on a waiting list. So,
So
I'm
it's already
gonna try-
booked out. It's already booked. Hotel's already booked already.
yeah, the River House is booked for.
That's what we're offended.
Yeah.
Okay.
Built fast.
And there was
Yeah.
another hotel, I can't remember, but before when I was booked out, there was a hotel across the street and you could walk over there. I'll have to check out what that was. Okay, any more board comments? Community items, anybody have any community items? The Saturday community breakfast down at your church is on, December 21st, 8 to 11. And then the Grange breakfast, first Saturday of the month will be the 4th of January, 2025. That's all that I know is going on right now. One of them's free, one's $8. Anything else? Okay, the next regular board of directors meeting will be held on January 21, 2025 at 6 P.M. Nothing else, we'll adjourn this meeting at, what is it, about 7:13.